This 4-year-old homeless girl sees a millionaire being forced to bury his son, but she saw everything and does something that shocked everyone. Watch until the end. Comment what you thought of this story with a rating from 0 to 10. I'd love to know if you like my story, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on you. The October afternoon burned over Oakstead, Georgia. With that dry heat that clung to the skin like molasses, Lily walked through the dusty streets of the town, her little bare feet already used to the roughness of the hot asphalt and the red clay that covered everything there. At 4 years old, the girl carried her only companion in her arms, Patch, a teddy bear that had once been white, but now sported the undefined color of something that had seen many rains and many suns. It had been 3 weeks since Lily had been wandering the streets of rural Georgia. She didn't remember ever having a real house or anyone to take care of her. Her earliest memories were fragmented, a woman with a blurry face who sometimes gave her food, voices shouting in dark places, the sour smell of alcohol mixed with sadness, then just the street, the open sky, and Patch to talk to when the loneliness in her chest became too tight. Lily's little belly had been rumbling for hours. She had only eaten half a roll that a kind baker had given her in the morning, and now the sun was already beginning its lazy descent toward the tops of the pecan groves that surrounded the town. The girl knew she needed to find a place to spend the night. The October nights were still chilly in the region, and sleeping in the open without a blanket was not an option. It was then that she spotted the Sterling estate on the outskirts of town. It wasn't the farm itself that caught her attention, but the strange movement in the pecan grove. Lily approached slowly, hiding behind the rows of pecan trees laden with nuts. What she saw made her freeze with fear. 2 men were in the middle of the grove. One of them, taller and wearing designer clothes even in that dusty place, was holding something that shone in the golden afternoon light. It was a hunting rifle. The other man, shorter and with his face sweaty with desperation, was on his knees, digging a hole in the red earth with his bare hands. "Did you think I'd never find out, Arthur?" The armed man's voice cut through the air like a razor. "Did you think you could fool me forever?" Arthur Sterling, 52 years old, owner of the largest agricultural cooperative in the region, raised his pleading eyes to his brother-in-law. "Damien, please, we can talk about this. It doesn't have to be this way." "Talk?" Damien Vance laughed bitterly, adjusting the rifle. "You forged contracts, Arthur. You stole millions from the cooperative, and you still have the nerve to ask to talk." It was then that Lily heard the crying, a thin, desperate cry coming from a basket placed near the hole Arthur was digging. Inside the basket, a baby of only 6 months was struggling, his cries echoing through the silent grove. It was Leo, Arthur's son. "My son has nothing to do with this." Arthur stopped digging, his hands trembling. "He's innocent, Damien." "Innocent?" Damien spat on the ground. "Like I was innocent when you destroyed my life? Like my mother was innocent when you spread lies about our family?" Lily didn't fully understand what was happening, but her instincts screamed that something terrible was about to occur. The baby kept crying, and she could see tears running down Arthur's dirty face as he continued to dig. "Keep digging," Damien ordered, taking a threatening step forward. "You're going to pay for everything you've done. And your son. Well, he can't be around to tell stories when he grows up." Lily's heart nearly stopped. Even as just a child, she understood the danger. Her eyes scanned the ground until she found a rock the size of her fist. Without a second thought, she picked up the rock and threw it with all the strength she could muster. The rock hit Damien right in the shoulder, causing him to stagger and momentarily lower the rifle. Arthur seized the distraction, lunged forward and grabbed the weapon, starting a physical struggle with his brother-in-law. "Run!" Arthur shouted to the girl who had appeared out of nowhere to save them. "Get the baby and run!" But Lily didn't run. Instead, she grabbed another handful of rocks and continued to throw them at Damien, who was trying to retrieve the rifle. The fight lasted for a few eternal minutes until Arthur managed to completely disarm his brother-in-law. Damien backed away, panting and angry. "This isn't over, Arthur. You're still going to pay for what you did. And this girl, where did she come from?" Lily approached slowly, still clutching Patch to her chest. Her large, dark eyes stared at the two men with a mixture of fear and determination. Arthur watched her in amazement, realizing that an unknown child had just saved his life and his son's. "What's your name, little one?" Arthur asked, his voice still trembling with adrenaline. "Lily," she whispered, pointing to the bear. "And this is Patch." Damien laughed with contempt. "A street kid. How touching. But that doesn't change anything, Arthur. Everyone in Oakstead is going to know who you really are." With that threat, Damien walked away, leaving Arthur alone with Lily and baby Leo, who had finally stopped crying. The businessman looked at the girl who had appeared out of nowhere to save them, and something in his heart stirred in a way he hadn't expected. Night fell over Oakstead like a heavy blanket, and Arthur found himself in a situation he had never imagined. In his colonial-style house in the center of town, one of the most imposing in the region, he watched Lily devour a plate of rice and chicken that Connie, his cook, had hastily prepared. The girl ate as if she didn't know when her next meal would be, and that was probably exactly the case. "Slow down, little one," Arthur said gently, sitting at the mahogany table his family had used for generations. "The food isn't going anywhere." Lily raised her large dark eyes, still chewing. "You're not going to send me away?" The question hit Arthur right in the chest. He looked at baby Leo, sleeping peacefully in his nearby crib, and then at this child who had risked her own life to save them. "No, Lily, you can stay here as long as you want." What Arthur didn't know was that at that very moment, on the other side of town, Damien Vance was at his mother's house. Beatrice Simmons was the local parish secretary and one of the most influential women in Oakstead. Her simple but well-kept house contrasted with Arthur's mansion, but Beatrice compensated for the social difference with a sharp tongue and a gossip network that reached every corner of the town. "Mother, I need your help," Damien said, pacing nervously in the small living room. "Arthur is trying to destroy me, and now he has a child with him." Beatrice, a 60-year-old woman with grey hair, always tied in a strict bun, frowned. "What child?" "A street girl he picked up. He must have promised her something in exchange for protection." Damien stopped in front of his mother, his eyes gleaming with malice. "We know what these people are like, don't we? Always willing to do anything for a plate of food." "What are you suggesting, son? That Arthur Sterling isn't the honest man everyone thinks he is? That he's using vulnerable children for his own dark purposes?" Beatrice stood up slowly, a dark idea forming in her mind. As the parish secretary, she had direct access to Father Anselm and all the influential families in town. Her word carried weight, especially when it came to moral issues. Meanwhile, at the Sterling mansion, Charlotte, Arthur's wife, had returned from her trip to Atlanta to visit her sister. She was a beautiful 35-year-old woman, always impeccably dressed and made up, who maintained an elegant posture even in the most casual moments. When she entered the living room and saw Lily sleeping on the sofa, clutching the patch bear, her expression hardened. "Arthur, what is this?" she asked, her voice as cold as ice. "It's Lily. She helped me today. She saved my life and Leo's." "A street child in our house?" Charlotte looked around as if Lily's mere presence could contaminate her expensive furniture. "Have you lost your mind?" Arthur approached his wife, trying to explain the day's events, but omitting the most disturbing details about Damien's threat. "She has nowhere to go, Charlotte. She's just a child who could bring trouble to our family, to our business." Charlotte nervously adjusted the pearl necklace she was wearing. What will people think? Since when do you care so much about what people think? Since you became partners with my brother and our social standing became more delicate. Charlotte went to the crib where Leo was sleeping, picking up her son with mechanical movements. Damien told me about the problems at the cooperative, about your irregularities. Arthur felt a cold pit in his stomach. What irregularities? Don't play innocent with me, Arthur. The unauthorized transfers, the modified contracts. Damien showed me the documents. Charlotte, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Her voice rose, waking both Lily and the baby. I understand that you're involved in shady business and have now brought an unknown child into our home. What kind of man have you become? Lily sat up on the sofa, rubbing her sleepy eyes. She could feel the tension in the air, even without fully understanding what was happening. Leo began to cry in his mother's arms, who rocked him with growing impatience. Maybe I should go, Lily murmured, clutching Patch to her chest. No! Arthur's voice came out louder than he intended. He knelt in front of the girl. You're not going anywhere, little one. This is your home now. Charlotte laughed bitterly. Her home. Arthur, you're delusional. This child is not our responsibility. She saved our son today, Charlotte. She saved our family. According to you. But who can confirm this story besides the two of you? Charlotte placed Leo back in the crib with more force than necessary. What if it's all a lie? What if you're using this child to cover up your crimes? The accusation left Arthur speechless. He looked at Lily, who was watching everything with frightened eyes, and felt a mixture of anger and hopelessness. How could his own wife think so poorly of him? I'm going to the guest room, Charlotte announced. I don't want to sleep in the same room as someone capable of this. After Charlotte left, Arthur sat down heavily on the sofa next to Lily. The girl watched him with those big, wise eyes that seemed to understand more than they should for her age. You're sad, she said softly. A little, yes. Because of me. Arthur pulled her into a gentle hug. No, little one. Never because of you. You're the purest thing that's happened in this house in a long time. Are you sure I can stay? I don't want you to be sadder. I'm absolutely sure. Arthur kissed the top of her head, feeling a protective love he hadn't experienced in years. Tomorrow we'll get you new clothes, toys, everything a girl your age needs. But as Arthur made promises of a better future for Lily, he didn't know that his words of affection were being overheard through the ajar door by Connie the cook. And Connie, unfortunately, was Beatrice Simmons's cousin. The next morning, before Arthur even woke up, all of Oakstead already knew that the wealthy businessman had taken a street child into his mansion. And thanks to Beatrice's venomous whispers, spread through the parish gossip network, the story had already taken on dark undertones that would make any family man worry about the town's morals. The first week of November brought a stuffy heat that seemed to herald storms. But it wasn't the weather that changed Arthur Sterling's life. It was the suspicions that began to spread through the town like wildfire. On Monday morning, when he arrived at the cooperative's office, located in Oakstead's commercial centre, he found half of his employees looking at him strangely. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling," greeted Martha, the receptionist, but her voice sounded different, cautious. "Good morning, Martha. Is there a problem?" The woman lowered her eyes, nervously shuffling papers on her desk. "No, sir. No problem at all." But Arthur felt there was something in the air. Conversations ceased when he walked down the hallways, and the looks he received were loaded with an unhealthy curiosity that made him uncomfortable. When he reached his office, he found Damien already sitting in his armchair, fiddling with documents with a casualness that deeply irritated Arthur. "Making yourself at home, brother-in-law?" Damien smiled, but there was no warmth in his expression. "Just checking some contracts. You know how important it is to keep everything in order, especially now. Especially now? With so many people talking about you around town. Damien stood up slowly, smoothing his expensive suit. About your new domestic responsibilities. Arthur felt his blood boil. If you have something to say, just say it. Me? I have nothing to say. It's the townspeople who are talking about a rich and powerful man who suddenly decides to adopt a street child. Damien made air quotes when he said, adopt. Questions about his true motivations. My motivations are pure, and you know it. I know, but people don't. Damien walked to the door. And you know how people are. Once they start suspecting something, it's hard to stop the rumor, especially when it comes from the parish. After Damien left, Arthur was alone in his office, feeling the weight of his brother-in-law's words. He knew Beatrice Simmons had influence in town, but he hadn't imagined she was capable of spreading such malicious lies. Meanwhile, at home, Lily was experiencing her first days in a real family. Connie had been instructed by Arthur to take care of the girl during his absences, and the cook, a sturdy 50-year-old woman, did her job efficiently, though without much affection. "Come here, girl," Connie called that morning. "Let's give you a bath and put on some decent clothes." Lily obeyed silently. She had learned from a very young age not to question adults, especially when they were being kind to her. Connie took her to the back bathroom and prepared a tub with warm water. "Take off those rags," the woman ordered, referring to the dirty clothes Lily had been wearing for weeks. When the girl took off her shirt, Connie let out a muffled gasp. Lily's small body was covered in old marks, cigarette burn scars, faded bruises, scratches that told a story of suffering no child should ever know. "My God," Connie murmured, her hands trembling. "Who did this to you, child?" Lily hung her head, ashamed. "I don't remember clearly. It was a lot of different people." Connie felt a tightness in her chest. Despite all her toughness, she was a mother of 3 and couldn't imagine anyone hurting a child like that. She helped Lily into the tub and began to wash her with extra care, trying not to hurt the still sensitive scars. "From now on, no one will hurt you again," she said, her voice softer. "Mr. Sterling is a good man." But even as she said these words, Connie couldn't get the things her cousin Beatrice had told her out of her head, about rich men who took advantage of vulnerable children, about how strange it was for a married man to suddenly become so interested in an unknown girl. After the bath, Connie dressed Lily in one of the dresses Arthur had bought, a simple blue dress but new and clean. The transformation was striking. Clean and well-dressed, Lily looked like a normal child, with her brown hair shining and her big eyes highlighting her innocent beauty. "You look pretty," Connie said, but her voice carried a concern that the girl was quick to notice. "Are you mad at me?" "No, child, I'm not mad." "Then why are you sad?" Connie stopped combing Lily's hair. The girl had a keen perception, a result of years living in dangerous situations where reading adults' emotions could mean the difference between safety and danger. "I'm just worried," Connie admitted. "People in town are saying things." "What kind of things?" "Things that are none of your business, little one." Connie finished arranging Lily's hair. "Let's go to the kitchen. You must be hungry." But as she prepared lunch, Connie couldn't stop thinking about the marks on Lily's body. If that child had suffered so much before, why had Arthur chosen her specifically? How had he found her? And why did Charlotte seem so hostile to the girl's presence? In the afternoon, when Arthur returned home, he found Lily playing alone in the garden, talking to Patch as if the bear could answer. The scene filled him with tenderness, but also with a deep sadness. What kind of life had that child lived to be content with the company of an old toy? "How was your day, little one?" "It was good, Mr. Sterling. Miss Connie gave me a bath and yummy food." Lily smiled, but then her expression turned serious. She was sad about something. Sad about what? I don't know. She said people are saying things. Arthur felt his stomach tighten. If even Connie was being influenced by the rumors, the situation was worse than he imagined. He knelt in front of Lily, holding her small hands. Lily, no matter what people say, you will always have a place here with me. Understand? I understand. But the girl's eyes showed a precocious wisdom, as if she knew that adults' promises weren't always kept. That night, during dinner, Charlotte barely touched her food. She watched Lily eat with an expression that wavered between revulsion and something that looked like fear. Leo was crying in his crib, and when Lily offered to help calm him, Charlotte practically shouted, "No, don't touch my son." The silence that followed was awkward. Lily hung her head, clearly hurt by the rejection, while Arthur looked at his wife in astonishment. "Charlotte, she was just trying to help. I know exactly what she wants." Charlotte picked up Leo with abrupt movements. "And I won't allow it." After dinner, when Lily had gone to sleep in the room Arthur had prepared for her, he confronted his wife in the living room. "What's going on with you? Why are you treating the girl this way? Do you really want to know?" Charlotte turned to him, her eyes shining with a coldness he had never seen before. "Because I know exactly what you are, Arthur, and I know what men like you do to children like her. How can you say such a thing? Because my brother told me everything about your problems at the cooperative, about the children you've used in other places." Charlotte crossed her arms. "I thought I knew the man I married, but I was wrong." "Charlotte, none of that is true. Damien is lying to you." "Is he? Then prove it. Prove that there's nothing wrong with you bringing this girl into our home." Arthur realized he was cornered. How could he prove his innocence when evidence of kindness was interpreted as signs of guilt? How could he explain that his only crime was having a compassionate heart in a town full of suspicious minds? That night, he couldn't sleep, listening to Charlotte tossing and turning restlessly in the next room, and sometime in the early hours he heard footsteps in the hallway and a door closing softly. When he got up to check, he discovered that Charlotte had locked Leo's bedroom door from the inside. The second week of November brought devastating consequences for Arthur's business. On Tuesday morning, he received a call from Joseph A. Riley, owner of the largest coffee roastery in Savannah and one of his main clients for over 10 years. "Arthur, I need to cancel our contract," said Joseph, his voice hesitant but firm. "Cancel? But why? We've always had an excellent partnership." It's a difficult decision, but my wife, well, she heard some things about you, about your personal life, and you know how the church ladies are. They convinced the company board it would be better to find another supplier." Arthur felt his world collapsing around him. Joseph Riley was responsible for almost 40% of his monthly sales. "Joseph, you've known me for years. You know what kind of man I am." "I know, Arthur, but I can't go against the entire board, especially when it comes to, well, issues involving children. You understand." After he hung up, Arthur slumped into his leather office chair. His hands trembled as he mentally calculated the financial impact of this loss. Without the roastery contract, he would have to lay off at least 20 employees. The door opened without him authorizing entry. Damien appeared with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, carrying a folder of documents. "I heard you lost the Riley roastery contract," Damien said, sitting in the chair across the desk. "What a shame. You knew this was going to happen." "Me? How could I know?" Damien opened the folder and spread some papers on the desk. "By the way, I need you to sign these documents. There's some transfers of responsibility that have become necessary due to the current circumstances." Arthur took the documents and began to read. They were contracts transferring control of several cooperative operations to Damien. This would give you power over more than half of our business. It's a temporary measure until your situation is resolved. Damien leaned back in his chair. You know how worried the other partners are. Charles Mendoza has already called 3 times today asking about the rumors. What rumors exactly? About you using the cooperative to recruit vulnerable children. About you having a special preference for little girls. Damien paused dramatically. Of course I defended you, said they were just malicious gossip. Because they are malicious gossip. I know that, but Charles doesn't. Nor do the other partners, nor the banks that finance our operations. Damien pointed to the documents. That's why it's better for me to take over temporarily until everything is cleared up. Arthur knew he was being blackmailed, but he saw no alternative. If he refused, Damien could easily convince the other partners to vote for his complete removal from the company. At least this way, he would maintain some control over the business he had built from scratch. With a heavy hand, he signed the documents. Meanwhile, at home, Lily was experiencing her own version of isolation. Connie had received orders from Charlotte to keep the girl away from Leo, and the atmosphere in the house had become tense and hostile. Lily spent most of her time alone in the garden, talking to Patch and watching the butterflies that visited the flowers. "Why is everyone mad at me, Patch?" she asked the bear. "I just wanted a family." It was at that moment that she heard loud voices coming from inside the house. Curious and worried, she approached the living room window and heard Charlotte talking on the phone with someone. "Yes, brother, I understand the situation," Charlotte was saying. "But I can't pretend everything is fine anymore. This child in my house is making me sick." Lily hid behind the curtain, her heart pounding. "No, Damien, it's not paranoia. It's mother's instinct. I feel she's a threat to Leo." Charlotte paused, listening to the response. "What do you mean, an opportunity?" There was another long silence, and when Charlotte spoke again, her voice had a different, more calculated tone. "Are you sure this will work? What if they find out?" Another pause. "I see. If it's the only way to protect our family and our business. But it has to look natural. I can't be a suspect." Lily didn't fully understand what she was hearing, but she knew instinctively that she was in danger. She had developed a sixth sense for these things during her years on the streets. When adults spoke in low, hushed tones about children, it was usually nothing good. She moved away from the window and ran to her room, hugging Patch tightly. For the first time since she had arrived at Arthur's house, she considered running away. But where to? On the streets, at least she knew the dangers. Here, the dangers came disguised as care and protection. In the afternoon, when Arthur returned from work, he found Lily too quiet. The girl who had been so talkative and curious in the first few days now answered his questions with monosyllables. "Did something happen, little one?" "No, Mr. Sterling." "Are you sure? You seem worried." Lily looked at him with those big, wise eyes, as if she wanted to tell him something but didn't know how. "People don't like me here." "What people?" "Ms. Connie gets nervous when I get close to the baby. Mrs. Charlotte doesn't talk to me, and today I heard..." "Heard what?" Lily lowered her head. "Nothing. Forget it." But Arthur realized there was something more. He knelt in front of the girl, holding her hands. "Lily, you can tell me anything. I promise I'll protect you. Even if it's something bad? Especially if it's something bad." Lily took a deep breath and told him about the phone conversation she had overheard. With every word, Arthur felt anger growing in his chest. Charlotte wasn't just being hostile to Lily, she was actively conspiring against the girl. That night, after Lily had gone to sleep, Arthur confronted his wife in their bedroom. "Charlotte, I need to know what you and your brother are planning." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Lily heard your phone conversation today about her being a threat to Leo." Charlotte turned to him, her eyes shining with a coldness that frightened him. "And isn't she? You brought a complete stranger into our home." A child who clearly has a violent past, judging by the scars on her body. Scars she got from other people, from people who hurt her. How can you be sure? How do you know she isn't violent too? Children who go through trauma can develop aggressive behaviors. Charlotte approached him. Have you ever thought about what could happen if she hurt Leo? If she had an episode? Lily would never hurt anyone. She's kind and gentle. With you, maybe. But what about me? And our son? Have you noticed how she looks at Leo? With jealousy, Arthur, with anger. That's not true, isn't it? Then why did I find her standing by his crib in the middle of the night yesterday? Why was she whispering things to him while he slept? Arthur felt a cold pit in his stomach. Could he be wrong about Lily? Could his compassion be blinding him to real signs of danger? What was she whispering? I couldn't understand, but she was whispering something, and when she saw me, she ran off. Charlotte sat on the bed, feigning vulnerability. Arthur, I'm a mother. My instinct is telling me our son is in danger, and you're ignoring my fears because of your obsession with this girl. The word obsession hit Arthur like a slap. It was exactly what people in town were whispering about him, that his protection of Lily was unnatural, obsessive. It's not obsession, it's compassion. Is it? Or is it something more? Charlotte stood up and went to the door. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight, and I'm locking Leo's bedroom door, for safety. After Charlotte left, Arthur was alone, his mind spinning in vicious circles of doubt and guilt. What if Charlotte was right? What if he was putting his family in danger for a child he barely knew? But then he remembered Lily's eyes when she saved him in the grove. He remembered the way she hugged Patch when she was scared, the gentleness with which she spoke to the garden flowers. That was not a violent child. It was a wounded child who had finally found a safe place. The problem was that her safe place was quickly turning into a prison of suspicion and fear. The end of November arrived with a persistent rain that turned Oakstead's dirt roads into rivers of red mud. For Arthur, every drop that fell seemed to echo the sound of another cancelled contract, another lost client, another employee he had to let go. In 2 weeks, his cooperative had lost 60% of its revenue, and the bank had already started asking uncomfortable questions about his outstanding loans. On that rainy Thursday morning, Arthur found himself doing something he never imagined, firing Norbert Fields, his groundskeeper and trusted man for 20 years. Norbert was a simple, 55-year-old man, with hands calloused from working the land and honest eyes that always looked directly into the eyes of whomever he spoke with. "I'm so sorry, Norbert," Arthur said, unable to look directly at the man who had helped build his property. "I can no longer afford to keep you on." Norbert was silent for a long moment, fiddling with the old hat he held in his hands. "It's because of the girl, isn't it?" "It's not her fault, Norbert. It's the fault of malicious people spreading lies. I know what kind of man you are, Mr. Sterling. I've worked for you for 2 decades. I know you'd never harm a child." Norbert sighed heavily. "But the people in town, they don't want to know the truth. They want to believe what's easiest to believe." "Forgive me for having to do this." "No forgiveness necessary. You're doing what you can." Norbert put his hat on and headed for the door. "But can I give you a piece of advice? Be careful who you trust. Not everyone close to you wishes you well." After Norbert left, Arthur was alone in his office, looking out the window at the rain that wouldn't stop. He had built this agricultural empire over 25 years of hard work, and now he was watching it all crumble because of unfounded gossip and suspicion. The phone rang, interrupting his dark thoughts. "Arthur, this is Dr. Sebastian," said the voice of the family doctor. "I need to talk to you about your wife." "What happened to Charlotte?" She came to my office yesterday, very worried. She said you're having problems at home because of a child you've taken in." The doctor paused. "Arthur, she was very nervous, almost in a panic. She said she fears for the baby's safety." "Doctor, the child poses no danger." "I understand you believe that, but Charlotte is so stressed that I prescribed tranquilizers for her, and she asked me to talk to you about the possibility of, well, finding an alternative home for the girl." Arthur felt a dull rage build in his chest. Charlotte had gone to the family doctor to construct a medical narrative to justify removing Lily from the house. "Doctor, this child saved my life. I'm not going to abandon her." "No one is asking you to abandon her, but maybe it would be better to find a more suitable family to raise her." After hanging up, Arthur went home early, finding Lily sitting alone on the porch, watching the rain fall. The girl seemed smaller than her 4 years, huddled in a chair too big for her, hugging Patch to her chest. "Why are you out here, little one?" "It's cold." "Mrs. Charlotte said I can't be inside when the baby is awake," Lily replied, without taking her eyes off the rain. "She said I might scare him." "That's not true, Lily." "I know." The girl finally looked at him, and Arthur saw tears mixed with raindrops on her face. "But I don't want to cause any more trouble for you." "You're not causing trouble. Other people are." "Are you losing money because of me?" The direct question caught him off guard. He had underestimated Lily's perception of the situation. "Why do you ask?" "Because I heard Ms. Connie telling the baker that you fired a lot of people, and she said it's because of the rumors about me." Arthur sat beside her on the porch, watching the rain that was starting to ease. "Lily, can I ask you a question?" "You can." "Do you remember what your life was like before you met me?" The girl was quiet for a long moment. "I remember being very hungry and very scared, and people who hurt me, and now I'm not hungry and you don't hurt me." She paused. "But the other people here, they don't like me." "It's not that they don't like you, they don't know you. Mrs. Charlotte knows me, and she doesn't like me anyway." That night during dinner, the tension in the house was almost palpable. Charlotte ate in silence, avoiding looking at Lily, who in turn ate quickly, as if in a hurry to leave the table. Leo was crying in his crib, and when Lily offered to help soothe him, Charlotte exploded. "I told you not to go near my son." "Charlotte!" Arthur scolded. "No, enough!" Charlotte stood up abruptly, knocking over her glass of water. "I can't take this anymore. I can't pretend everything is fine." Lily shrank in her chair, clearly frightened by the aggressive tone. "This girl is destroying our family," Charlotte continued. "She's destroying your business. She's making me sick with worry, and you act like I'm the villain in the story." "You're being unfair to her." "Unfair? Unfair is you choosing an unknown child over your own family." Charlotte picked up Leo. "Unfair is you putting our son at risk because of your obsession." The word obsession echoed through the dining room like a gunshot. Lily looked from Charlotte to Arthur, her big eyes full of painful understanding. "I'll leave," she said softly. "No," Arthur said immediately. "You're not going anywhere." "Yes, she is," Charlotte said firmly. "She's leaving because I won't accept this anymore. Either she goes, or I go with Leo." The ultimatum hung in the air like a guillotine about to fall. Arthur looked at his wife, then at Lily, and realized he was being forced to make an impossible choice. "Charlotte, you can't be serious." "I'm very serious. I've already spoken to my sister in Atlanta. I can go there with Leo until you resolve this situation." Charlotte headed for the dining room door. "You have until tomorrow to decide what's more important, your real family or your misguided charity." After Charlotte left, the silence in the room was broken only by the sound of the rain, which had started falling heavily again. Lily remained seated in her chair, small and vulnerable, as if trying to become invisible. "Mr. Sterling," she said in a trembling voice, "I don't want you to lose your family because of me. Lily, I'll leave tomorrow. I'll find another place." "No, you will not leave this house. I won't allow it." But even as he said those words, Arthur knew he was lying. How could he choose between Lily and his own son? How could he risk losing Leo for a girl he had known for only a month? That night, he heard Lily crying softly in her room, talking to Patch about where they could go. And for the first time since he'd found her in the pecan grove, Arthur began to wonder if it wouldn't be better for everyone to find another solution. The question that tormented him throughout the night was, what kind of man would he be if he abandoned an innocent child to save his own interests? And what kind of man would he be if he chose a stranger over his own family? The next morning, when he woke up, Arthur found a note under his door. It was from Lily, written in her childish handwriting. "Thank you for giving me a family, even if it was just for a little while. I'm leaving so I don't cause any more trouble. Take good care of baby Leo. Lily." The girl's room was empty. Lily had left in the dead of night, taking only Patch and the clothes on her back. The despair that gripped Arthur upon discovering Lily's empty room was something he had never experienced before. It was December, and the sweltering heat of the Georgia summer made the search even more agonizing. He left the house before sunrise, combing every street in Oakstead, every alley, every place a 4-year-old child might try to hide. "Lily! Lily!" he shouted through the still deserted streets, ignoring the curious glances of the few early morning passers-by. Some people recognized him and whispered among themselves, probably thinking he had finally lost his mind. After 3 hours of searching, Arthur decided to ask for help. He went to the local police station where he found Chief Augusto Moreira, a burly 50-year-old man who had known him since childhood. "Augusto, I need to report a missing child," Arthur said, breathless and sweating. "What child, Arthur?" "Lily, the girl who was living with me." The chief frowned, clearly uncomfortable. "The street girl you took in?" "She disappeared during the night. She left a note saying she was leaving so she wouldn't cause trouble." "Arthur," Augusto said after a long pause, "do you have any legal documents for this child? Any custody or adoption papers?" "No, She came into my life unexpectedly. I haven't had time to regularize the situation yet." "Then technically she's not missing. She just went back to where she was before." "How can you say that? She's just a child." "A child who lived on the streets before you found her," Augusto said, avoiding Arthur's gaze. "Look, I'll make some calls. Ask if anyone has seen her. But I can't open an official investigation without legal documentation." Arthur realized that even the police chief was influenced by the rumors. The way Augusto avoided his eyes, the formal tone of his voice, it all indicated that he too suspected something sinister. Meanwhile, Lily was hiding in the abandoned warehouse of the old train station, 2 miles from the center of Oakstead. It was a place she knew from her previous wanderings when she lived on the streets. The warehouse offered protection from the sun and rain, but little else. The girl was hungry and scared, but determined not to go back and cause more problems in Arthur's life. She had heard the fights between him and Charlotte, had seen how her presence was destroying the family she so admired. "Patch," she whispered to her bear, "we did the right thing by leaving. Mr. Sterling will be happy again without us." But even as she said it, tears streamed down her face. For the first time in her life, she had known what it was like to have a family, a home, someone who cared about her, and now she was back where she had tried to escape from. On the second day of the search, Arthur decided to directly confront the people who had spread the rumors. His first stop was Beatrice Simmons's house. "Mrs. Simmons," he said when the woman answered the door, "I need to talk to you." "Mr. Sterling, what a surprise," Beatrice said with false cordiality. "How can I help you? Do you know where Lily is?" "Lily? The girl who was living with me, she's disappeared." Beatrice crossed her arms, adopting a defensive posture. "And why would I know where a child is who shouldn't have been with you in the first place? Because you're the one who spread the lies that made her run away." "Lies?" Beatrice's voice rose. "Mr. Sterling, I merely repeated what I heard from reliable sources. If you have nothing to hide, why are you so bothered by innocent comments? Innocent comments that destroyed my business and scared an innocent child." "An innocent child?" Beatrice laughed with contempt. "Do you know where that girl came from? Do you know what kind of life she led? Children like her learn early how to manipulate kind-hearted adults. How can you be so cruel?" "Cruel is a married man obsessed with a street child." Beatrice took a step back. "And if this girl really has disappeared, maybe it's the best thing that could have happened for everyone involved." Arthur left Beatrice's house even more desperate. Everyone he spoke to seemed to believe that Lily's escape was a natural solution to a problem he had created himself. On the third day, when the heat was unbearable and Arthur was beginning to fear the worst, he received an unexpected visit. Norbert Fields appeared at his door, holding his hat in his hands with the same deference as always. "Mr. Sterling, may I come in?" "Of course, Norbert. Have a seat." "I heard the girl's gone missing." "How did you hear?" News travels fast in a small town. Norbert sat on the edge of the chair. "I wanted you to know that I know where she is." Arthur's heart almost stopped. "Where?" "In the old station warehouse. I saw her yesterday on my way back from town. She was drinking rainwater that had collected in an old bucket." "Why didn't you bring her back?" "Because she asked me not to tell anyone. She said she doesn't want to come back to your house." Norbert paused. "But I couldn't get it out of my head. A 4-year-old child alone in that place. It's not right." Arthur was already getting up to leave when Norbert held his arm. "Mr. Sterling, can I offer another piece of advice? If you're going to get her, take your wife with you." "Charlotte doesn't even want to hear Lily's name." "That's exactly why. The people in town are saying you have an unnatural fixation on the girl. If you go get her alone, you'll confirm all their suspicions." Norbert released his arm. "But if your wife is with you, if she shows that she accepts the girl back, maybe people will start to change their minds." Arthur recognized the wisdom in Norbert's advice. He went back home and found Charlotte feeding Leo in the kitchen. "I know where Lily is," he said without preamble. Charlotte paused with a spoon in midair. "And?" "She's alone, Charlotte, in an abandoned station drinking rainwater. She's 4 years old." "Arthur, I'm going to get her, with or without you, but it would be better if it were with you." "Why?" "Because if I go alone, I'll confirm all the suspicions that already exist about me. But if we go together, as a couple, as a family..." He paused. "Maybe we can save not just Lily, but our reputation as well." Charlotte was silent for a long moment, clearly fighting an internal battle. Finally, she sighed heavily. "All right, but on conditions." "What conditions?" "If we bring her back, you sort out the legal situation immediately. No more improvising." She stood up. "And she sleeps in the guest room, not in a main room of the house." "Agreed. And you stop acting like she's more important than Leo." "Charlotte, I never..." "Yes, you did. Ever since she arrived, it's like Leo and I were secondary." Charlotte picked up the baby. "If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, as a real family." An hour later, Arthur and Charlotte were driving towards the abandoned station. Leo was asleep in the back seat, and the tension between the couple was almost palpable. When they arrived at the warehouse, Arthur called out softly, "Lily, little one, it's us." A noise came from behind some old crates, and soon after, Lily appeared, dirty, thin, and clutching Patch. When she saw Charlotte, her eyes widened with fear. "I came to take you home," Arthur said, kneeling in front of her. But Mrs. Charlotte said, "I was wrong." Charlotte interrupted, surprising everyone, including herself. You're part of our family now. Lily looked from one to the other, unsure if she could believe it. Really? Really, Arthur confirmed. But now let's go home. You need a warm bath and a decent meal. As they left the warehouse, Lily, walking between Arthur and Charlotte, none of them noticed they were being watched from a distance by Damien Vance, who had quietly followed the couple there. January of 1998 brought a suffocating heat and a discovery that would change everything. Lily had gradually readjusted to life in the Sterling house, but now with a different dynamic. Charlotte, keeping her word, treated the girl with a cold but respectful courtesy, while Arthur worked tirelessly to rebuild his business. It was during a particularly hot afternoon that Lily, playing alone in Arthur's office while he was at the cooperative, accidentally knocked over a pile of old documents. As she picked them up from the floor, trying to organize them as she had seen Arthur do, her attention was caught by something strange on one of the sheets. The document looked like a cooperative contract, but there was something wrong with it. Lily couldn't read completely, but she could recognize some letters and, most importantly, could distinguish between different handwritings. The signature at the bottom of the paper looked different from the signature she saw Arthur make every day. "Patch," she whispered to the bear, "look at this. This writing isn't Mr. Sterling's." The girl hid the document under her bed, not fully understanding its importance, but with an intuition that she had found something significant. That night, during dinner, Lily decided to tell Arthur about her discovery. "Mr. Sterling, I found a weird paper in your office today." "What paper, little one?" "One that has your name, but it doesn't look like you wrote it." Arthur frowned. "Can you show me?" Lily ran to her room and brought the document. When Arthur examined it, his face turned pale. It was a contract transferring a large portion of his land to Damien, dated 6 months ago, with his forged signature. "Where did you find this, Lily?" "It fell from a pile of papers in your office. It was in the middle of other papers just like it." Arthur stood up abruptly from the table, his mind racing. If there was one document with a forged signature, how many others existed? How long had Damien been forging his signature? "Arthur, what's happening?" Charlotte asked, noticing her husband's agitation. "Damien forged my signature, probably multiple times." He showed her the document. Lily found the proof. Charlotte examined the paper, her accounting training allowing her to immediately identify the irregularities. This is a crime, Arthur. Forgery, and it explains why he was so eager for me to sign those documents weeks ago. He was trying to legalize what he had already stolen. That night, after Lily was asleep, Arthur spent hours examining every document in his office. What he discovered made him sick. There were at least 15 contracts with forged signatures, transferring properties, cooperative shares, and even rights to entire crops to Damien. "He's been systematically robbing me," Arthur told Charlotte, "for months, maybe years." "But why did you never notice?" "Because I trusted him. He was my brother-in-law, my partner. I signed documents he brought me without reading everything carefully." Arthur sat down heavily in his chair. "And when I started to suspect something, he used the rumors about Lily to destabilize me." "The rumors?" Charlotte paused, a terrible realization dawning on her. "Arthur, what if the rumors weren't accidental? What if Damien spread them on purpose?" The next morning, Arthur decided to confront Damien directly. He arrived early at the cooperative and found his brother-in-law already in his office, fiddling with documents with the ease of someone who felt he owned the place. "Good morning, Damien." "Arthur, what a surprise. I thought you were still resolving your domestic issues." "Actually, I've resolved a much bigger problem." Arthur placed the forged document on the desk. "Can you explain this?" Damien looked at the paper, and his expression shifted subtly. But he quickly regained his composure. I don't know what you're talking about. It's a contract transferring my land to you, with my forged signature. Forged? Damien laughed, but the sound was forced. Arthur, you're getting paranoid. You probably signed this and forgot. The stress of the situation with that girl must be affecting your memory. No, Damien, I didn't sign this, and I suspect there are many other documents like it. Are you accusing me of forging your signature? Damien's voice became dangerously low. Be careful what you say, brother-in-law. Accusations like that can have legal consequences. Legal consequences? Arthur stood up. You want to talk about legal consequences after robbing me for months? I didn't steal anything. All the documents you signed were duly witnessed and registered. By whom? By my mother, of course. Beatrice Simmons is a respected figure in the community. Her word carries much more weight than yours, currently. The implied threat was clear. Damien had created a system of false witnesses using his own mother, and now he was using Arthur's tarnished reputation against him. You planned all of this, Arthur said, the realization hitting him like a punch. The rumors about Lily, the destruction of my reputation, it was all to weaken me while you stole my company. I didn't create the rumors, Arthur. I just didn't contradict them when they arose naturally. Damien smiled coldly. People saw a middle-aged, wealthy man obsessed with a street child and drew their own conclusions. And you fed those conclusions. I protected my family and my business from a man who was clearly making questionable choices. Damien headed for the door. And I will continue to protect my interests. Damien, wait. Arthur followed him. Why do this? We were family. We were partners. You already had a fair share of the company. Damien stopped at the door and turned, his eyes shining with an old anger. Fair share? I worked just as hard as you, Arthur, but you were always treated as the owner, the boss, the important man. I was just the brother-in-law who helped out. That's not true, isn't it? Then why was your name on all the important contracts? Why did all decisions go through you first? Damien stepped closer. Why were you considered the king of agriculture in Oakstead while I was just the assistant? Because the company was built with my initial capital, Damien. You came in later, and you never let me forget it. The mask of civility finally fell completely. Well, now it's my turn to be the boss, and you can try to prove I'm a forger, but who's going to believe you? The man who brought a street child into his home and destroyed his own family over her. After Damien left, Arthur was alone in his office, realizing the full extent of the trap he had fallen into. Damien had not only stolen his money and his company, he had systematically destroyed his credibility so that any future accusation would be seen as the desperation of a ruined man. That afternoon, when he returned home, Arthur found Lily playing in the garden with Leo, who had started to crawl. Charlotte was watching them from a distance, and for the first time in months, there was something like peace in her expression. How was it at the cooperative? Charlotte asked. I found out the situation is worse than I imagined. He told her about the confrontation with Damien and the extent of the fraud. And now, what are we going to do? I don't know. Arthur looked at Lily, who was laughing as Leo tried to grab Patch. But I know that girl saved my life once again. If she hadn't found that document, you never would have discovered the truth, Charlotte completed. Arthur, I need to apologize for not believing you about Lily, for doubting your motives. You were protecting our family, I understand. No, I was being selfish and blind. Charlotte approached him. That girl really did save you. She saved all of us, and I treated her like a threat. That night, for the first time since Lily had arrived, the family had dinner in harmony, but Arthur knew the real battle was just beginning. February arrived with its characteristic summer rain, and with it came a revelation that would shake the foundations of Arthur's life even more. He had hired a lawyer from Savannah, Edmund Castle, Esketsko, to analyze the forged documents and prepare a lawsuit against Damien. During a meeting in his office, the lawyer brought disturbing news. "Arthur, I found something in the public records you need to know about," said Mr. Castle, removing his glasses to clean them nervously. "About the accident that happened 5 years ago on the rural road." "What accident?" "The fatal hit and run of the cyclist, Anthony Fisher. The car involved was yours, but—" He paused significantly. "There are inconsistencies in the police report." Arthur felt a cold pit in his stomach. 5 years ago, during a severe storm, he had lent his car to Damien, who claimed to have a family emergency. The next day, he learned from the newspapers about the fatal accident, but Damien had assured him the car had been in his garage all night. What kind of inconsistencies? The time of the accident coincides exactly with the period when, according to witnesses, your car was seen leaving Damien's property. The lawyer opened a folder. "And there's something else. I found a handwritten confession in Damien's personal files that was seized during our investigation." Arthur took the document with trembling hands. It was a letter written in Damien's own hand, confessing that he had hit Anthony Fisher while driving Arthur's car, and that he let his brother-in-law take the blame to protect himself. It means you took the blame for a crime you didn't commit. And Damien used that guilt to blackmail you all these years. The lawyer leaned back in his chair. "Arthur, why did you confess to a crime you didn't commit?" The memory came back like an avalanche. Arthur vaguely remembered that terrible night, Damien arriving at his house, desperate, telling him about the accident, begging Arthur to help him because he was drunk and would be arrested if discovered. Arthur, in love with Damien's sister at the time and wanting to protect the family he hoped to form, had agreed to take responsibility. "Because I wanted to protect Charlotte," Arthur admitted. "She was pregnant with Leo at the time, and I didn't want her to know her brother had committed a crime. And Damien took advantage of your generosity to steal your company. Yeah, he always told me that if I tried to expose him on the business deals, he would tell Charlotte the truth about the accident, that she would find out I was a killer." "But you're not a killer, Arthur, and now we have proof." That night, Arthur returned home with the weight of 5 years of guilt slowly lifting from his shoulders, but with the anxiety of having to tell Charlotte everything. He found her in the living room, sewing clothes for Leo, while Lily drew on the floor beside her. "Charlotte, I need to tell you something about the accident 5 years ago." She looked up from her sewing, noticing the seriousness in his tone. "What accident?" "The hit and run on the rural road, the one I confessed to." Charlotte put her sewing aside. "Arthur, I don't like talking about this. It's important that you know the truth. I didn't cause that accident." "What do you mean?" "It was Damien. He was driving my car, drunk, and hit the cyclist. Then he convinced me to take the blame to protect him." The silence that followed was deafening. Charlotte looked at him with an expression that mixed shock, confusion, and something that looked like relief. "Are you saying my brother, that he killed a man and let you take the blame?" "I'm saying I was a fool to agree to protect him, and that he used that protection to blackmail me all these years." Lily stopped drawing and looked at the two adults, sensing the tension in the air. "Is Mr. Sterling sad?" "A little one. But it will get better." Charlotte stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the rainy night. "I always knew something was wrong," she said finally. "That night, when Damien came home, he was distraught. But later, when you confessed to the crime, he was too relieved." "You suspected?" "I suspected, but I didn't want to believe it. He was my brother." She turned to him. "Arthur, forgive me for not trusting you about Lily, for believing his lies about the business. There's nothing to forgive. He manipulated all of us." 2 nights later, Arthur received an unexpected visitor. It was almost midnight when he heard footsteps in the garden. When he looked out the window, he saw Damien approaching the house, but there was something different about his posture. He walked like a desperate man. Arthur opened the door before Damien could knock. "We need to talk," Damien said, his voice tense. "About what?" "About what you found out. About the documents." "Oh, now you want to talk?" "Arthur, you don't understand. There are things you don't know about that night in the pecan grove." "What things?" Damien entered uninvited, looking around nervously. "When I threatened you that day, when I had the rifle, I wasn't alone." "What do you mean?" "Charlotte knew. She knew everything. About the plan to take over the company, about the accident 5 years ago." Damien sat down heavily on the sofa. "It was her idea, Arthur." Arthur's world seemed to collapse again. "That's a lie." "Is it? Then why do you think she became so hostile towards the girl? Why did she want to get rid of Lily so badly?" Damien looked directly into his eyes. "Because Lily saw everything that day, and Charlotte was afraid the girl would remember details that could incriminate her. Charlotte wasn't in the grove, not physically, but she knew I would be there. She knew about the baby." Damien paused. "In fact, she was the one who suggested I take Leo there." "Why? To make it look like you had kidnapped your own son, to justify my intervention." Damien laughed bitterly. "Charlotte wanted your company and your fortune, Arthur, and I was just her instrument." Arthur leaned against the wall, feeling dizzy. "You're lying. You're trying to save yourself by blaming her." "Am I? Then ask her about the conversations we had. Ask her why she really married you." Damien stood up. "Ask her who Leo's real father is." The last sentence hit Arthur like lightning. "What did you say?" "You heard me. Leo is not your biological son, Arthur. He's mine. Charlotte was pregnant with my child when she married you." "That's impossible." "Is it? Then why do you think he has green eyes like mine? Why does he look nothing like you?" Damien went to the door. "Charlotte used me to steal your company, and you were too much of a fool to realize you were being betrayed by your own wife." After Damien left, Arthur was alone in the room, his mind spinning uncontrollably. He went upstairs like an automaton and stopped at the door of the room where Charlotte was sleeping. Through the ajar door, he could see her sleeping peacefully, Leo in the crib beside the bed. For the first time, he really looked at the baby. The green eyes, the shape of the face, the texture of the hair, features he had attributed to Charlotte's family genetics, but which he now recognized as Damien's. That night Arthur couldn't sleep. He sat in the living room, watching the rain fall outside, questioning everything he had believed about his life, his family, his reality. When the sun rose, a single certainty had crystallized in his mind. The only person he could still completely trust was a 4-year-old girl who had risked her own life to save him, and who remained his only genuine light in a world full of lies and betrayals. The March dawn brought an inevitable confrontation. Arthur spent the morning watching Charlotte prepare breakfast, feed Leo, and greet Lily with the cold courtesy that had become her trademark. Every gesture seemed laden with falsehood now that he suspected the truth. "Charlotte, I need to talk to you," he said when Lily went out to play in the garden. "About what?" "About Damien. About the conversation we had last night." The fork Charlotte was holding clattered against the plate, producing a metallic sound that echoed through the kitchen. "What conversation?" "He told me some interesting things about the plan in the pecan grove, about you knowing everything in advance." Charlotte stood up abruptly, turning her back to him as she washed dishes at the sink. "My brother is desperate, Arthur. He would say anything to save himself. He said Leo is not my son." Charlotte's hands stopped moving. The silence that followed was so intense that Arthur could hear the drip of water from the poorly closed faucet. How can you believe such a cruel lie? She finally said, her voice trembling. So it's a lie. Of course it's a lie. Leo is your son. Charlotte, look at me when you say that. She turned slowly, her eyes avoiding his. You're letting Damien's desperation destroy our family. Our family was destroyed a long time ago. The question now is to find out when the destruction began. Arthur approached her. Did you marry me for love or for my money? Ah, how can you ask me that? Because for 5 years I carried the guilt for a crime I didn't commit. Because for months I thought I was going crazy because of the rumors about Lily. And now I find out that my own wife may have been part of the conspiracy against me. Charlotte began to cry, tears that seemed genuine, but which Arthur now questioned whether they were real or performative. Arthur, I love you, I always have. You love me? Or do you love what I represent? Financial stability, social position. That's unfair. Unfair was me being betrayed by the person I trusted most. He moved away from her. Charlotte, I'm going to ask you a simple question, and I want an honest answer. Is Leo my biological son? The silence stretched for minutes that felt like hours. Finally, Charlotte sank into a chair, covering her face with her hands. No, she whispered. He's not. The confession hit Arthur in the chest like a stab wound, even though he already suspected the truth. Since when? Since before our wedding. I was pregnant with Damien's child when we got married. And why did you marry me? Because Damien didn't want to take responsibility. He said it would ruin his image if people knew he had gotten a woman pregnant and refused to marry her. Charlotte raised her red-rimmed eyes to him. And because you were a better option. A better option. You had money, social standing, a promising future. Damien was just your junior partner. If I married him, I would always be the assistant's wife. By marrying you, I would be the owner's wife. And love. I tried to love you, I really did. But when Damien started talking about taking control of the company, about how we were more compatible, she paused. I realized I had made the wrong choice. Arthur sat down heavily at the table, processing the magnitude of the betrayal. How long did you plan this? The plan started a year ago. Damien said you were too trusting, too naive, that it would be easy to gradually transfer control of the company. And I made it easy by signing documents without reading them. You made it easy by being too good a man to suspect malice in the people you loved. And the incident in the pecan grove, did you know he was going to threaten my life? Charlotte hesitated before answering. I knew he was going to. Pressure you to sign more documents. I didn't know he would bring a gun. But you suggested he take Leo as bait to make sure you wouldn't resist. Her voice was almost inaudible now. Arthur, I never wanted you to get physically hurt. I just wanted what I thought I deserved. And when Lily showed up and ruined your plans, we were desperate. A child witness was unforeseen. Damien said we had to find a way to discredit anything she might say. So, you created the rumors about me. Damien created them, I just didn't contradict them. Charlotte stood up, pacing nervously around the kitchen, and when you brought her home, I saw an opportunity. What opportunity? To make you seem truly obsessive, unstable, to justify my leaving with Leo when the time came. She stopped in front of him. Arthur, I never wanted to hurt you emotionally, but I wanted a better life for myself and my son. Your brother's son, the son of the man I truly love. The final admission was like a slap in the face. Arthur stood up and walked to the window, watching Lily play in the garden with Patch. The girl was singing softly to her bear, oblivious to the drama unfolding inside. "And now," he asked without turning, "now you know the truth, and you can decide what to do with it. What do you want me to do? Let me take Leo and leave. Let Damien keep the part of the company he already controls, and you start a new life." Charlotte approached him. "With Lily, if that's what you really want. Are you offering me a deal? I'm offering you the chance to have the family you really chose instead of the family that was forced upon you." Arthur turned to her. "And if I decide to fight, if I take all this to court, then Leo will grow up knowing that the man he always called Dad destroyed his mother and his biological father out of revenge." Charlotte crossed her arms. "And Lily will grow up knowing that she caused the complete destruction of the only family she ever knew. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a dignified exit for everyone." She picked up Leo from his crib and hugged him. "Arthur, we've wasted too much time pretending to be happy. Why not accept reality and go our separate ways?" At that moment, Lily ran into the kitchen, stopping abruptly when she sensed the tension in the air. "Did something happen?" she asked, looking from one adult to the other. "No, little one," Arthur said, forcing a smile. "Just a grown-up conversation." Lily approached him and held his hand. "You seem very sad, Mr. Sterling." "I am a little sad, yes, but it will pass. Do you want me to draw something to make you feel better? I'd love that." As Lily ran to get her colored pencils, Charlotte watched the interaction with an expression that mixed remorse and determination. "See how she loves you," she said. "See how natural you are together. That's not something you force or plan. It just happens. Unlike our marriage." "Exactly." Charlotte kissed Leo's forehead. "Arthur, give me a week to get things in order. Then Leo and I will leave. You can have the house, Lily, and the chance to rebuild your life the right way. And Damien will have to face the consequences of his choices, just like me." That night, after everyone was asleep, Arthur lay awake thinking about Charlotte's proposal. On one hand, accepting the deal meant losing the chance to legally punish those who had betrayed him. On the other, it meant freeing himself definitively from a marriage based on lies and having the chance to raise Lily without the complications of a dysfunctional family. When he finally fell asleep, his dreams were filled with images of a future where he and Lily lived alone, but genuinely happy, in a house where there was no room for lies or betrayals. A week after Charlotte's confession, the Sterling house was in a state of silent, painful transition. Arthur had spent the days divided between his work at the cooperative, now under Damien's almost total control, and watching Lily, who seemed to have developed a sixth sense for the family tension. "Mr. Sterling, is Mrs. Charlotte really leaving?" the girl asked one afternoon as she drew on the porch. "Yes, little one. She needs to sort some things out in her life." "And is baby Leo going with her?" "Yes." Lily stopped coloring and looked at him with those big, wise eyes. "And we're going to be alone?" "We are. Are you afraid to be alone with me?" "No, I like being with you." She returned to her drawing. "But I'm sad for baby Leo. He won't know that I liked him." The innocence of Lily's observation made Arthur's heart ache. The girl had developed a genuine affection for Leo, despite all the restrictions Charlotte had placed on their relationship. That evening, 2 days before Charlotte's scheduled departure, Arthur had a final conversation with his wife. She was packing her bags in the bedroom, carefully sorting her clothes and the babies. "Charlotte, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you feel any remorse for everything that happened?" She stopped folding clothes and sat on the bed. "I feel remorse for lying about Leo. I feel remorse for not being honest from the beginning about my feelings." She paused. "But I don't feel remorse for wanting something better for my life, even if it meant destroying mine." "Arthur, Your life wasn't destroyed. It was redirected. She gestured towards the hallway, where they could hear Lily humming in her room. You have a daughter now, a daughter who chose you as much as you chose her. A daughter who was almost rejected because of you. A daughter who, in the end, revealed truths that none of us were prepared to face. Charlotte closed the suitcase. If Lily hadn't found that document, you would have continued to be deceived. In a way, she saved you once again. Don't you think you owe her something? Some kind of apology? Charlotte considered the question for a long moment. I do, but I don't know how to apologize to a 4-year-old for rejecting her without a real explanation. Try. At least try. Zup. The next morning, Charlotte found Lily in the garden. The girl was playing alone, making Patch talk to the flowers, creating little stories where the bear explained to the plants about his life at the Sterling house. Lily, can I talk to you? The girl looked up, surprised. Charlotte rarely addressed her directly, especially with such a gentle tone. You can, Mrs. Charlotte. I want to apologize. Apologize for what? For not being kinder to you, for not giving you a real chance to be part of our family. Lily tilted her head, processing the words with the seriousness she always applied to important conversations. You didn't like me. It wasn't that I didn't like you. It was that I was scared. Scared of what? I was scared that you were more of a family to Arthur than I was. The honesty of the answer surprised Charlotte herself. And I was right. You are more family to him than I ever was. But you're his wife. That's more important than being a daughter. Sometimes it's not, little one. Sometimes the love we choose is stronger than the love we promise. Charlotte knelt in front of Lily. Will you take good care of Arthur when I'm gone? I will, and I'll take care of baby Leo too if he needs me. Leo is going with me, Lily. We're going to live far away. Forever? Probably forever. Lily was quiet for a moment, then held out Patch to Charlotte. Do you want to say goodbye to Patch? He likes goodbyes. Charlotte gently touched the bear's worn head. Goodbye, Patch. Take good care of Lily. He said he will, Lily translated seriously, and he asked if you'll be happy where you're going. I hope so, little one. I hope so. On the day of departure, a cloudy March morning that threatened rain, the whole family gathered in the living room for the last time. Leo was in Charlotte's lap, oblivious to the gravity of the moment, playing with his own fingers. Lily watched everything attentively, as if memorizing every detail. The bags are in the car, Charlotte announced. The taxi will be here in 15 minutes. Do you have everything you need? Arthur asked. I do. She approached him. Arthur, thank you. For what? For not making this harder than it already is. For accepting my decision without fighting for Leo in court. He's not my son, and you were never truly my wife. Arthur looked at the baby. But I'll miss him. He'll miss you too. When he's older, I'll tell him you were a loving father while you could be. Will you tell him the truth about everything? I'll tell him a version of the truth he can understand. Charlotte kissed Leo's forehead. That his biological father and his mother made mistakes, but that you always tried to do the right thing. The sound of a horn from outside announced the taxi's arrival. Charlotte went to the door, but stopped and turned to Lily. Lily, can I give you a piece of advice? You can. Take good care of Arthur. He's a good man who deserves to be loved for real. I do love him for real, Lily replied simply. I know, and that's why you two will be happy. After Charlotte and Leo left, the house became strangely quiet. Arthur and Lily stood on the porch, watching the taxi disappear down the street. Are you sad, Mr. Sterling? Lily asked. A little, but also relieved. How can you be sad and relieved at the same time? Because sometimes change is necessary, even when it hurts. Like when I left Aunt Creusa's house, exactly like that. Lily held his hand. Is it just the two of us now? Just the two of us. I like it being just the two of us. Me too, little one. That afternoon, they received an unexpected visit. It was Norbert Fields carrying a basket of fruit and an envelope. Mr. Sterling, I brought some fruit from my new garden, Norbert said, and something you need to see. What is it, Norbert? A letter I found buried near the pecan grove, where you almost... He glanced at Lily and changed the subject. Where that trouble happened. Arthur opened the envelope and found a handwritten letter from Damien, dated a week before the incident in the grove. The letter was a full confession about the hit and run 5 years ago, about the forged documents, about the plan to take over the company. It was as if Damien had anticipated that something might go wrong and decided to document his version of events. Where exactly did you find this? Buried in an old can, right where the girl was hiding that day, Norbert said, looking at Lily, as if someone buried it in a hurry and forgot to come back for it. Arthur realized the irony. Lily had saved his life in the grove, and now, indirectly, she had also uncovered the evidence that could completely restore his reputation and his business. Norbert, are you sure you want to give me this? It could have consequences for a lot of people. Mr. Sterling, I worked for you for 20 years. I know what kind of man you are, and I know what kind of man Damien is. Norbert put on his hat. Justice has to be served. That night, after Lily was asleep, Arthur sat alone in the living room, reading and rereading Damien's letter. He held in his hands the evidence that could completely destroy his brother-in-law and restore everything he had lost. The question now was whether he really wanted revenge, or if he preferred to simply move on with the new life he was building with Lily. April brought a decision that would change the course of everything. Arthur had spent weeks internally debating whether to use Damien's confession letter or simply move on. The answer came from an unexpected source, Lily herself. It was a hot afternoon when the girl came home from the small local school where Arthur had managed to enroll her. Connie had left with Charlotte, so now it was just him and Lily taking care of each other. The girl came home crying, her eyes red and her little dress rumpled. What happened, little one? The kids at school said you're a bad man, Lily sobbed, hugging Patch tightly. They said you do bad things to children and that I should be afraid of you. Arthur felt a dull rage build in his chest. Even with Charlotte and Damien out of the picture, the rumors continued to circulate through town, poisoning even the children against him. And what did you say to them? I told them they were lying, that you're good to me. Lily wiped her tears on her arm. But they laughed at me. They said I was stupid and didn't understand anything. Do you want to keep going to that school? I do. I like learning to read and write. Lily looked at him with determination. But I want people to stop saying bad things about you. That night, after Lily was asleep, Arthur took Damien's letter and brought it to Edmund Castle. The lawyer read the document with growing excitement. Arthur, this is a bombshell. With this confession, I can not only recover your assets, but also completely clear your name. How long would it take? For the criminal case against Damien? A few months to get the cooperative back? Maybe a year? The lawyer leaned back in his chair. But I can do something faster for your reputation. How? I'll give a copy of this letter to Father Anselm and to Beatrice Simmons. When she realizes her son has confessed to all his crimes in writing, she'll change her tune very quickly. 3 days later, Arthur was approached by Beatrice Simmons. The woman appeared at his door in the late afternoon, visibly shaken and with an expression of someone who had cried a lot. Mr. Sterling? May I come in? You may, Mrs. Simmons. I came to ask for forgiveness, she said as soon as she sat down in the living room, and to tell you some things you need to know. What things? About the rumors I spread, about the lies I helped create. Beatrice took a handkerchief from her purse and dried her eyes. My son confessed everything to me before he skipped town. Damien fled. Last week, when he found out his letter had been found, he took what little money he had and disappeared. She sighed heavily. He left a letter for me too, telling me everything, from the hit and run to the forged documents. And why did you come to tell me this? Because I've spent my whole life teaching about Christian morality, about doing what's right. And I found out I raised a liar and a thief. Beatrice stood up and walked to the window. And worse, I found out I became his accomplice, spreading lies about an honest man. Mrs. Simmons, no, let me finish. She turned to him. I want you to know that from today on, I will personally undo every lie I spread. I will talk to every family in town. I will speak with the priest. I will do whatever it takes to clear your name. That's not necessary. Yes, it is. Because of my gossip, an innocent child is suffering at school. Because of my venomous tongue, you lost business and friends. Beatrice approached him. Mr. Sterling, can you forgive me? Arthur looked at this woman who had caused so much suffering in his life, but who was now genuinely sorry. I can, Mrs. Simmons, but on one condition. What? You're going to help me with something important. Anything. I want to officially adopt Lily, and I need reputable witnesses in town to attest that I am an upstanding man. You can count on me, and on Father Anselm too. I've already spoken to him about the whole situation. A week later, Arthur received a visit he wasn't expecting. Norbert Fields appeared, accompanied by a man he didn't recognize, a well-dressed gentleman of about 70, with a kind but serious expression. Mr. Sterling, this is Mr. Anthony Fisher, Jr., Norbert said, son of the cyclist who had the accident 5 years ago. Arthur felt his stomach clench. Mr. Fisher, Mr. Castle showed me your brother-in-law's confession. Said Anthony, Jr., I want you to know that I never believed you were guilty of what happened to my father. What do you mean? Because I knew you by reputation. I knew you were an honest, careful man. It never made sense to me that someone like you would cause an accident and flee the scene. Anthony sat down in the living room. But I also knew you had confessed. So I accepted that maybe good people can make mistakes too. I'm so sorry for what happened to your father. I am too. But now I know that the person who killed my father was a coward who let another man take the blame. Anthony paused. I want you to know that I will testify on your behalf in any proceedings, and I consider you as much a victim as my father was. That afternoon, Arthur told Lily about the recent developments. The girl listened attentively, asking occasional questions to clarify points she didn't fully understand. So now everyone will know you're good? She asked when he finished explaining. Eventually, yes. And will the kids at school stop talking bad about you? They will. And will you get the company back? Probably. Lily was quiet for a moment, processing everything. Mr. Sterling, can I ask an important question? Of course. If you get rich again and everyone likes you again, will you still want to be with me? The question hit Arthur like a punch. He realized that Lily still carried the insecurity of someone who had been abandoned before, of someone who couldn't fully believe she could be loved unconditionally. Lily, listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, he said, kneeling in front of her and holding her small hands. No matter what happens to me, to my company, to my money, or to my reputation, you will always be my daughter. Always. Even if a rich family wanted to adopt me. Even then. Even if I did something wrong. Even then. Even if I get old and ugly. Arthur laughed, despite the seriousness of the moment. especially if you get old. Who else would take care of me when I'm a grumpy old man?" Lily smiled, the first genuine smile he had seen on her face in days. "I would, me and Patch. Then it's a deal. We'll take care of each other forever. Forever. Forever." That night, Arthur officially began the process of adopting Lily, and for the first time since everything had started, he felt truly optimistic about the future. Not just because his reputation would be cleared or because he would recover his assets, but because he was finally sure he had found his true family. A family built not on blood or convenience, but on genuine love and the mutual choice to stay together against all odds. Children's Day. In October 1998 dawned with a radiant sun over Oakstead, and for the first time in over a year, Arthur Sterling woke up truly happy. The 8 months following Damien's confession had been a period of gradual but solid reconstruction. Justice had run its course, his assets were recovered, and most importantly, his reputation was completely restored. "Daddy Arthur!" shouted Lily, now 5, running into his room in her pajamas. "Today is my special day." "It sure is, little one. Come give Daddy a hug." The word daddy still sounded like music to Arthur's ears. The adoption had been finalized 3 months prior in an emotional ceremony at the Savannah courthouse. Lily had insisted on bringing Patch as a witness, and the judge, touched by the girl's story, allowed the bear to participate in the official ceremony. "Daddy, can I wear my new dress today?" "Of course you can. It's your special day." The new dress was light blue with small embroidered flowers, chosen by Lily herself on a shopping trip to Savannah. It was the first dress she had chosen for herself, and Arthur had been moved to see how she had developed self-esteem and a sense of autonomy over the months. As Lily got ready for the party he had organized in the backyard, Arthur reflected on the extraordinary changes of the past few months. Damien had been tried in absentia and convicted of forgery and the hit and run. A warrant was out for his arrest, but he remained a fugitive. Beatrice Simmons, true to her word, had worked tirelessly to undo the damage she had caused to Arthur's reputation. The cooperative had not only been fully returned to Arthur, but had prospered beyond his previous expectations. Many clients who had abandoned him during the crisis returned, some ashamed for having believed the rumors. Others simply relieved to find out he was indeed the upright man they had always thought he was. "Daddy, look how it turned out," said Lily, appearing in the living room in her new dress, her hair styled in 2 braids she had insisted on doing herself. "You look beautiful, my princess, the prettiest in all of Oakstead. And Patch looks handsome too," she said, showing off the bear, who now wore a small red bow tie Arthur had bought especially for the occasion. The backyard party began at noon. Arthur had invited all the children from Lily's school, their families, and many of the cooperative's employees. To his surprise and joy, almost everyone attended. The tables were laden with sweets, snacks, and a giant chocolate cake decorated with drawings of birds, a tribute to Lily's first works of art. "Mr. Sterling," said Anthony Fisher Jr., approaching him during the party, "I want you to know how happy I am to see you two like this." "Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Your friendship meant a lot during the difficult times. That girl saved more than your life that day in the Grove. She saved your soul." Anthony watched Lily playing with the other children, laughing loudly as she organized a game of Ring Around the Rosie. "My father would be happy to know that somehow his passing led to something so beautiful." Father Anselm was also present, blessing the party and chatting animatedly with Lily about her latest drawings, which now depicted happy families, colorful houses, and always many birds flying free in the sky. "Father," said Lily, tugging on his cassock to get his attention, "do you want to see my new drawing?" "Of course, my child." Lily ran into the house and returned with a piece of paper. It was a drawing of the party happening at that moment, smiling people, children playing, and in the center, two figures holding hands that clearly represented her and Arthur. "It's beautiful, Lily, and who are these people flying in the sky?" "It's my real mum and the cyclist who went to heaven," she explained naturally. "They're happy because now I have a real family." The priest looked at Arthur with tears in his eyes. Lily's ability to transform trauma into hope, pain into joy, continued to surprise everyone around her. During the afternoon, Norbert Fields, who had been rehired as the groundskeeper and now also helped care for Lily when needed, approached Arthur with a serious expression. "Mr. Sterling, I need to tell you something." "What is it, Norbert?" "I've received news about Damien through a cousin who lives in Dallas." Arthur felt a cold pit in his stomach. "What news?" "It seems he's living under a different name, working on a small farm, lost all the money he stole on gambling and drink." Norbert paused. "And it seems he's very sick. Cirrhosis, from what they heard. Is he suffering?" "From what I was told, he is, and regretful. My cousin said he talks a lot about you and the mistakes he made." Arthur was silent, processing the information. For months, he had harbored anger towards Damien, wishing he would pay for all his crimes. But now, knowing his former brother-in-law was sick and repentant, he felt only a deep sadness. "Mr. Sterling," Norbert said, "can I give my opinion?" "You can. You got your justice. You got back everything that was yours, cleared your name, found your real family. Maybe it's time to let the hate go too." That night, after the guests had left and Lily had finally fallen asleep, exhausted but happy, Arthur sat on his porch. It was the same porch where months ago he had agonized over impossible choices and painful truths. Now, looking at the yard still decorated with party favors, at the house where he lived with his adopted daughter, at the town that had come to respect him again, he felt a peace he hadn't experienced in years. Lily appeared on the porch, barefoot and still sleepy. "Daddy, I couldn't sleep." "Why, little one?" "Because I was thinking about today. It was the best day of my whole life." "Mine too, honey, mine too." "Daddy, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course. Before I met you, I used to dream that one day I would have a family, but I never thought it would be this good." She snuggled next to him in the chair. "Now I dream about tomorrow, instead of dreaming about running away." Arthur hugged his daughter, feeling immense gratitude for the journey that had brought them here. In less than a year, he had lost a wife who never truly loved him, a son who was not his biologically, a brother-in-law who turned out to be a criminal, and almost all his fortune and reputation. But he had gained something infinitely more valuable, a daughter who loved him unconditionally, a true family built on mutual choice and genuine affection, and the certainty that he had found his real purpose in life. "Daddy," Lily murmured, almost asleep in his arms. "Tomorrow, can I draw our next adventure?" "You can, my princess. You can draw all the adventures you want. It's going to be a big drawing with lots of happy birds flying. Like you, little one, like you." And as night fell on Oakstead, a father and daughter remained embraced on the porch, silently planning a future that would be built not on perfection, but on true love, honesty, and the certainty that they had found in each other, the family they had always deserved. 5 years later, a sunny October morning in 2003, found Lily, now 10, sitting at the kitchen table of the house that had truly become hers. Her brown hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders as she carefully wrote in a new notebook, her tongue sticking out from the corner of her mouth in total concentration. "What are you writing there, little writer?" asked Arthur, now 57, a few grey streaks ornamenting his hair, but with a permanent smile that hadn't existed in previous years. An essay for school about heroes, Lily replied, not looking up from the paper. The teacher asked us to write about someone we consider a hero. And who are you writing about? About you, of course. Lily finally looked up, her eyes shining with pride. About how you saved me and how I saved you too. Arthur came closer and read over her shoulder. With her increasingly beautiful handwriting and carefully chosen words, Lily had written, "My dad Arthur is my hero because he taught me that family isn't just who you're born with, but who you choose to be with. He taught me that even when people say bad things about you, if you have love in your heart, you can overcome anything." It's beautiful, honey. But are you sure you want to write about me? You can choose any famous hero. I don't want a famous hero, I want my real hero. Lily went back to writing. Besides, our story is more interesting than any movie. And it really was. In the 5 years following the adoption, the father and daughter had built a life that was both ordinary and extraordinary. Lily had become one of the top students at her school, with a particular talent for writing and drawing. Her old works of sad birds had given way to colorful landscapes, family portraits, and comic strips she created about her imaginary adventures. Arthur's agricultural cooperative had become the most respected in the region, not only for its quality, but for the social responsibility policy he had implemented. Inspired by his own experience with Lily, he had created a support program for vulnerable children, offering scholarships and psychological counseling. "Daddy," Lily said, pausing her writing, "do you remember when I was little and drew that family tree in school?" "I remember. You were sad because you didn't know what to write." "Exactly. Today the teacher asked for a new family tree, and I made the prettiest one in the class." Lily smiled with satisfaction. "I put you as my dad. I put my birth mom in heaven. I put Norbert as my grandpa of the heart, Mrs. Beatrice as my grandma of the heart, and I even put Patch as my bear brother." Arthur laughed. Patch, now even more faded and patched up, remained Lily's inseparable companion, even though she was old enough to understand he was just a toy, as her classmates said. "Just a toy that helped me survive," she would always reply with dignity. And how did the teacher react to the family tree? She cried a little and said she had never seen such a beautiful family built with so much love. Lily went back to writing. Then I told her that family is who really takes care of you, and she agreed. The phone rang, interrupting their conversation. It was Edmund Castle, who over the years had become not just a lawyer, but a family friend. "Arthur, I have news about Damien." Arthur felt that familiar pang of anxiety whenever his former brother-in-law's name was mentioned. In recent years, he had tried to make peace with all the suffering Damien had caused, but he still felt a knot in his stomach when he heard news about him. "He passed away early yesterday morning," the lawyer said softly. "Liver cirrhosis, as the doctors predicted." "And how was he at the end?" "According to the doctor who called me, he spent his last months talking about you and Lily. He said he had destroyed the life of the best person he ever knew." Edmund paused. "He left a letter for you, Arthur. I can mail it." "Please do. Thanks for letting me know." When he hung up, Arthur was silent for a few moments, processing the news. Lily watched him with that sharp perception she had developed even more with age. "Was that about Uncle Damien?" "It was. He passed away yesterday, little one." Lily set her pencil aside and reflected on the news. At 10, she had a more mature understanding of the whole situation that had marked her early years. "Are you sad?" "A little. Despite everything he did, he was once family. And have you forgiven him?" "I have, yes. Not for his crimes, but for my own peace of mind." Arthur sat beside her. "Holding on to anger only hurts the one holding it, little one. I learned that from you." from me. You had every reason in the world to be an angry and rebellious child, but you chose to be a loving and hopeful one. You taught me that we can choose who we want to be, regardless of what's been done to us. Lily smiled and went back to writing her essay. I'm going to put that in my text, that you taught me to forgive, but that I actually taught you first. 3 days later, Damien's letter arrived. Arthur read it alone in his office and found words of genuine remorse, pleas for forgiveness, and above all, an acknowledgement that Lily had been the salvation Arthur deserved. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, the letter said, but I hope you and Lily will be happy. She saved you from becoming a bitter person like I became. Take care of each other. Arthur put the letter in a drawer and never spoke of it again. Some chapters in life were best left closed with dignity. The following week, Lily presented her essay on heroes to the class. She had written about the journey of a man who almost lost everything but found his true wealth in a girl who needed love and had so much love to give. My dad taught me that being a hero isn't about saving the whole world, she read to the class. It's about saving one person at a time, starting with the one closest to you. And sometimes, when you save someone, you discover that they saved you too. The teacher, moved, gave the essay a perfect score and submitted it to a regional children's writing contest. Months later, Lily won first place, and the prize was a trip to New York City to visit the headquarters of a children's book publisher. "Daddy," she said during the trip, looking out the bus window at the passing scenery, "when I grow up, I want to write books about families that chose each other." "What kind of books?" "Books that show other kids that it doesn't matter how you start in life. What matters is how you continue." Lily snuggled into the seat beside him. "And that there's always someone in the world waiting to love you just the way you are." "I think that's a wonderful idea, honey. And I'm going to dedicate all my books to you, to the man who taught me that happy endings aren't just for fairy tales. They're something we build every day by choosing to be each other's family." When they returned to Oakstead, Arthur realized his daughter had grown even more during that short trip. Lily had found her purpose: to use her story of overcoming adversity to inspire other children in similar situations. Years later, when Lily did indeed become a respected author of children's literature, she always began her school talks by telling the story of the day a 4-year-old girl saved a 52-year-old man by throwing a rock at the right place, at the right time. And the most amazing thing, she would always say to the children listening with rapt attention, is that we later found out it wasn't a coincidence. It was destiny. Because somewhere in the world, there's a person waiting to be your real family. Sometimes you just have to be brave enough to throw the first stone. But that's a story for another day. For now, on that sunny October morning in 2003, a father and a daughter who had chosen each other continued to build their daily happiness, one loving conversation at a time, one school essay at a time, one fond memory at a time. And Patch, the silent witness to this entire journey, continued to guard the secrets and dreams of a family that proved true love is always stronger than any adversity. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story with a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you so much.